Two guys in their early 50s with one dream: to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Andy Walker, welcome back, and I'd also like to say a very big welcome to the new look Missing Links Golf Studio. Golf Show Studio, difficult to say. Looks fantastic.
Yes, it does. I'm a massive fan. I love the 3D logos. I love the pictures. It's it's actually quite cozy in here, I have to admit.
It is, isn't it? It's particularly for a rainy day outside. It's a horrible weather weekend here in Australia.
Yes.
When we're recording, but no, it looks fantastic. We will get some screenshots of this up on the Facebook group for the pilgrims to see, and I'd like to say a very big thank you to our friends at ChatGPT for helping put together the studio in the background, but looking good. It's a lot of fun. But here we are, another episode, Andy Walker. Bit to talk about today.
There's a lot to talk about. Lots happened over the past week. I actually have an injury update as well. Ooh. So that's in the works. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. But
certainly looking forward to hearing all about that, without a doubt.
Plenty to talk about with the Macquarie Cup and
some actual golf
went on. Yeah, well, for some.
Yeah, and not just talking about golf played by other people, but I do probably want to start with a Voice of the Pilgrims for you, Andy Walker, off the back of our previous episode, which was, of course, the wrap-up of the Masters from Augusta National.
Yes.
And that is from very, very good friend of the show, Aras from Georgia in the US.
Yep. Very close to where it all happened.
Yeah, so obviously he, he's got a lot of expertise to offer in this space, and he directs this at you, Andy Walker, specifically.
Right.
So it's quite long, so strap yourself in.
Okay.
And it is in relation to a remark that you made early in the episode when talking about Tiger Woods, and you made the remark that said words to the effect of Tiger pretty much went downhill after 2008, when we're talking about Rory being the talent of this generation.
So we're talking the second best golfer of all time, aren't we, Tiger Woods?
According to some, I think on every measure, to be perfectly honest, it's difficult to argue. Aras says this. He says, "Let me remind Mr. Andy Walker that in 2013, Tiger won the Farmers Insurance Open, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, the WGC Cadillac Championship, the Players Championship, and the WGC Bridgestone Invitational, and won Player of the Year. He then had back surgery in 2014, then 2 in 2015. After not so great results, he had anterior lumbar interbody fusion." There you go.
Right. Yep.
Procedure was performed in April 2017. Then in 2018, he came in second at the PGA Championship, then tied for sixth at the Open, then won the Tour Championship for his 80th career win. Tiger then won the 2019 Masters. Aras says, "I would disagree with Mr. Andy Walker and state that Tiger got derailed by his car accident after the Genesis. I really do believe that he could have contended for more majors if it wasn't for his car accident." And essentially what Aras is saying, and I find it difficult to disagree, Andy Walker, is that if you take Tiger's post-2008 career on its own, it was Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with that. But we're talking about between 1997 and 2008, where he won 14 majors, and 2008 to current day, where he's won one. And as we've discussed on the show, like you are judged on your major championships. I mean, as much as, we've talked about Rory, many, many times about the fact he's going to be judged on his major championships, right? And that's
Correct.
how history
Okay.
judges people or judges golfers. And I don't know. If between 1997 and 2008, you win 14 major championships, and between 2008 and 2025, you win one. I don't know. I don't think that's on the same level.
I mean, look, it was a really thoughtful, well-researched and well put-together response from one of the pilgrims, and I suppose he provided you with an opportunity to demonstrate some humility and say, thanks for your feedback. Maybe I got that one wrong. But, if you want to choose to take the opportunity to double down and show your pig-headed belligerence to all the pilgrims, then that's absolutely fine.
It's just not towards the pilgrims. I mean, I think that's just in general. But and I agree that between 2008 and today, that career under any other measure is Hall of Fame worthy. I don't disagree with that at all. But my comment that Tiger went downhill after 2008, I don't know. If anyone can pull up some stats and prove me wrong,
which I feel like RS has done a pretty good job of.
I don't know.
I mean, look. I think it's fair to say that his career was an incredible heights prior to 2008.
Yeah,
I suppose to use the phrase "gone downhill" since then is possibly a bit stiff. But that's okay. That's okay. It's all relative. I take your point that it wasn't as good after 2008 as it was before, and I think that's what you're driving at. And
I guess in order to phrase it differently, he didn't reach the lofty heights of 1997 to 2008 between sort of 2009 to present, and you could put it that way as well. But I think that's sort of semantics, don't you think?
Yeah, no, probably true. And you've never been one to soften a message. Let's be honest. So I do think we've also learned something there, that we've uncovered a pretty strong Tiger Woods fan amongst the pilgrimage. So that's also good to know.
Oh, look, and I'm a fan of Tiger Woods as well. I think what he did, certainly in the early part of his career, and if you look at the year 2000, I mean, the golf that he played in the year 2000, I doubt whether anyone in history would have been able to compete with him at that point. Jack had some great years, but Tiger was just phenomenal during that period of time. Jack at his best versus Tiger at his best, I don't know. We're never going to know what that result ends up like. And while I do, I grew up with Jack, so obviously, I've always viewed Jack as the greatest golfer of all time. But you're splitting hairs, I think, between the two. I don't think, in my honest view, I don't think you can really choose one or the other, because they're different eras. Tiger had the depth of talent across the board, whereas Jack had some incredible talents, Gary Player, Lee Trevino, Tom Watson, Arnold Palmer. He had to compete against those giants of our game at the time. So it's a different era, and it was, I think you're splitting hairs if you try and call one or the other.
Oh, I agree. I don't think there's any value in comparing too closely across eras, because so many things are very different, and technology's different, golf course design's different, all those sorts of things have changed. Even publicity and media expectations and the off-course pressures are different. Many differences. But I think one thing that probably isn't talked that much about, and we're going way off topic here, but that's par for the course on the Missing Links Golf Show.
That's par for the course, isn't it?
Yes, that's standard. One thing that is interesting is if you look at them and you go, which of the two, or even include anyone else into this as well, actually changed the game in their era? Who actually really drove significant change? And I mean, Tiger definitely did.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Look, I think both did in their own way. I mean, Tiger had a dramatic impact on the game, and certainly the modern game. Tiger drove a lot of the changes that have been made in the way that the modern game is played. But I think, if you could say Arnold Palmer brought golf to the masses, I think Jack sort of consolidated that and just took that to a new level. So again, it's really hard to say who had a greater impact on the game of golf, because A, I think it was a different impact, and B, it was a different time.
Very good. Agree with all of that, and I think that's probably a good place to wrap that discussion up. But thank you, Aris, for your feedback.
Yes, thank you, Aris.
As you can see, it's been duly taken on board by Andy Walker, and he's very, very sorry to have got that so horribly wrong.
Yes.
But let's move on to today's topic, Andy Walker. This episode, wow, the Macquarie Cup for 2025.
Yes, and as much as it was very disappointing that I didn't play, I had a really good weekend. I'm really glad that I made the trip out. I think you made the comment at some stage, I don't know if it was during the podcast or whether it was during one of our other chats, that asked when was the last time I drove 5 hours to caddy.
Yeah.
And I think that was never.
Yeah.
But look, it was a really good weekend. I had a great time and learned a lot about your game, learned a lot about, and we'll get into it, but there were some sort of skills I think that I didn't really give myself credit for, that I sort of found myself going, you know what, you're actually pretty good in this area. So as we get along, we'll
discuss that. Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about, and I would completely agree. And yeah, I think for background, Pilgrims, as you know, anyone that's been an ongoing listener of the show will know Andy Walker's battle with injury prevented him from playing.
It's not just a battle. It's battles.
Yeah, well, that's true.
It's now plural.
But this particular one prevented him from playing. But rather than just throw in the towel, the Walker family came out to the Golden West, and we had a great weekend. It's always good to catch up. The families always enjoy each other's company. And we took on the tournament as a team, with me as the player, Andy Walker as the caddy. And I've got to say, before we get into the details of it, that was I think a really cool experience to do that. It's so different. There's no more intimate relationship in the game of golf than the player-caddy relationship. Certainly over 2 days of stroke play, there's a whole lot that goes on. A lot of interesting conversations around the course. And I think as much as anything, it really gave us a very strong insight into each other's approach to the game as well. And some of the strategic decisions that we talked through, which we'll obviously get to. But I think it was a really, for me anyway, it was a really good learning experience as much as it was a whole lot of fun. So
I agree with all of that. It was very difficult for me, and I know this is hard to believe. It was really difficult for me to give up control
you
to
reckon?
a certain extent. Rather than being in the driver's seat, I was the navigator. If you take the sort of rally driving analogy. So yeah, for me to just sit back and as you know, I observed for probably the first half a dozen holes. And then I started to get a bit more...
lippy.
This is what we're doing. Look, there was a lot of discussion and collaboration there as well. But as we got into it, I found myself becoming a bit more, I reckon we should do this, which I think is healthy in a player-caddy relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Otherwise, you're just a spectator. But at the same time, with these sorts of things, we've never done this before, and it is, it's difficult to find the rhythm and find your feet. Where should you push? Where should you not? What becomes helpful? What becomes off-putting? And I think to be honest, in fairness, I think we communicated our way pretty well through that. And I think that worked quite well. And certainly by day 2, I feel like there was a good rhythm in terms of how we're approaching decision making for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. And given that we actually didn't really discuss it too much before
We didn't discuss it at all. We discussed it in the car driving to the first tee.
We did. And I think given
that's probably lesson number one, actually.
Yeah. I mean, look, we do, obviously, we've known each other for a long time and we've played together quite a bit. So we sort of have a bit of an understanding, or a lot of an understanding of how each other works, but just not on that level, not on the player caddy level. So, driving to the first tee on day one, how do you want to approach this?
I don't know. Let's have a go and see what happens.
Yeah. So it was quite interesting.
It was a lot of fun. So, look, shall we get into it, Andy Walker?
Yeah.
And I don't think the Pilgrims need a blow-by-blow, hole-by-hole description of 36 holes of stroke play.
No,
but I definitely
otherwise it's going to be a 3-hour episode, and I don't think that's helpful to anyone.
And bring your pillow. But I think what we might do is break down between days 1 and 2, starting obviously with day 1, and have a look at maybe, some of the highlights, some of the learning moments, some of the positives, some of the negatives, and kind of go from there. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, let's do that.
This is more of a conversation than we had about how we're going to approach the caddy-player relationship before the round.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's probably lesson number 1. So I think, look, if I was to give day 1 an overview, I kind of thought about this a little bit afterwards. And on day 1, so a stroke event, championship course set up, playing off the plates, tough pin positions, fast greens, all of that you would expect on a tournament day. So never going to be easy. I was playing off a handicap of 9 for the day. So around Royal Dubbo, which is a par 71 track. Yeah. And day 1, we finished with 83 off the stick for a net 74. So, look, I felt like that was a pretty decent round of golf. There were 2 double bogeys in it, which I'll get to in a minute. Yep. But I think the first thing that I wanted to do was kind of take a step back and look at a few positives out of the day. And the first one, I think, is my driver. I've felt really good across the weekend off the tee with the driver. And I think the difference between that now and where that was 6 to 12 months ago is, there's daylight in between. So that was really good. I thought on day 1 there were glimpses of putting improvement, even though I 3-putted the first hole and there were a couple of 3-putts, but I was struggling to get the speed
control.
Yeah, I was struggling to get the speed of the greens because they'd been very slow in the lead up to it, and excuse. But the new putter was absolutely getting the ball to the hole like it never has before. So that was good. For me, the downsides, there were 2 doubles, which was a little bit disappointing. So one of them, which was on 18, so our 9th hole, because we started on the 10th, and that was after a really poor tee shot, par 3, long par 3, hit a 4 hybrid into the trees on the left, and that caused all sorts of problems. And then the other one was on 2, which was the 11th hole, and that was my drive missed left, and then we tried to bunt out from the trees and got one absolutely middle stump and ended straight back where we started from. So they were disappointing. But around that, I felt like there was some pretty decent golf that got played throughout the day. So anyway, that's sort of my overview.
Yeah. Look, and I would agree with a lot of that. I was super impressed with your driving. In fact, I was a little bit jealous at different points, given how poor my driving has been in recent times. There are a couple of drives that you hit that I just went, that's just smoked. Like, you just couldn't hit it any better than that. And it wasn't just, a couple. I mean, there was probably, half a dozen drives. There were some good drives, but then there was about half a dozen where you just absolutely ripped the drive down the middle of the fairway. And I know that, before just about every shot, I asked you, where's your aim point, for your drive. And I was very careful not to get you to be too specific, because I know with our mental golf type sort of work, I know you work with an area rather than a specific point. So I work with a specific point. So I get really very, very specific with a point, whether it be a tree or, a part of the fairway that I want to land it. So yeah, before you hit your shot, I was asking, okay, where's your aim point? Where's your target? And yeah, there was probably 5 or 6 drives where you have absolutely smoked it straight into that area, which I was really, really impressed with. So I certainly think that was the biggest part of the best part of the weekend from your golf perspective. With your putting, yeah, I felt as though you were getting the ball, you were rolling the ball a lot better. But speed control, and we talked about this after day one. You were over-reading the greens, and I think this was a little bit of that you were playing on slower greens. They were a little bit different from where you were in the lead up to the event, because I was seeing different break to what you were. And I let you go for the first sort of half a dozen holes, and then I started sort of saying, hey, how about you aim it here? And we started to actually hold a couple of putts, and then started to actually look like holding a lot more putts, which I thought was really, really good. And I know also the one thing, or a couple of things we sort of talked about when after the round one, and this came out on the second. We just talked about the second where you took double bogey, because I saw a different shot to the one that you played, which would have been really good with a low running shot and would have got us up, maybe not on the green, but sort of within probably 30 or 40 yards of the green. And you didn't see that shot. You felt as though you couldn't, that wasn't a shot that was in your bag. So you've sort of just pitched out sideways and then sort of made double from there. So, and we had that discussion, I know, after the round. And I think that you would, it will be a massive advantage, especially around country golf courses, which, we're now playing a few, of getting that really low ball flight where it gets 6-10 feet off the ground and just is sort of like a bit of a bullet and sort of runs a long way. So yeah, look, I think from my perspective, your round one was a good round. It was a good start. A little bit of a wobble there in the middle, but it was a really good start and a really good finish, which I think were two positives that we took out of it.
Interesting point that you make about the overreading of putts on the course, because obviously, it's true. It was happening. But what was also interesting was I spoke to a number of the other players after the round, and almost to a man and a woman, because the ladies' Rose Bowl was also being played at the same time. Almost all of them talked about the same thing, that they were overreading putts. So clearly there was, and the greens have recently been renovated insofar as they've been punched and top dressed, and had come back and were rock hard. And I think they're obviously rolling a little bit different to what a lot of the membership are used to. So, and Dubbo's a bit of a tricky course. I think, there's a couple that I've played that are like this, where it doesn't look like there's a lot in it, and then they break hard. So, the truth of the matter, though, is that obviously we were missing on the high side for a lot of the putts early in the round, and that was a little bit costly. So, you were right to pull that up. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and look, I haven't played Dubbo a lot. So the Macquarie Cup last year was the last time I played at Dubbo. So I remember what the greens were like then, and they were pretty similar to what they were over this weekend. So whether it's because I also, when I commented this a couple of times, I couldn't see a lot of grain in the greens. There was a little bit. So whether when the greens are longer, there's the grain comes through a little bit more. So
that could be the case. Absolutely,
more break to the putts. But certainly for me, the greens were great. I thought the greens were the highlight of the golf course. They were in superb condition. But for me, I looked at the greens and they looked like they're hard, they looked like they were fast, and they looked like they were true. And when you get that combination, they're not really going to break that much. It's really just subtleties. And especially when you take the grain out, which, as I said, I couldn't see a lot in there, you're not going to get as much break as what you otherwise would have.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and that's probably what was going on. In fairness, but there was a couple of putts there that surprised me that didn't take the break that I would ordinarily have expected to have seen. But that's one of those things when you're playing in events, and certainly multi-day events, is actually seeing that, observing that, making the required changes so that you can adjust on the fly, and not just keep making the same mistake for 36 holes. So, which in fairness, without a caddy, I probably would have done.
Lucky you had a caddy then.
It was. So that was sort of the summary on day one. There is one hole though that I do want to talk about in a little bit more detail, because I think that this explains the player caddy relationship probably better than any other hole possibly could have for the entire weekend. And it was fantastic. It was the 7th hole, which was, what does that make it? That's the 16th that we played on the day.
Yes.
Because we played the back 9 first. So the 7th is a nice straight par 5, pretty much uphill most of the way. It's one of those holes, the bigger hitters can get there in 2. For me, I might get to the front edge in 2 if I absolutely smoke a drive and then hit a good fairway wood, but that's my best opportunity. But definitely off the back plates, that was always going to be a tough ask with my artillery in the bag. So anyway, hit a drive, hit it pretty well, but it's one of those, it's interesting. We noticed, I think, and we talked about this on day 2, that the tee box actually lines you up at the left-hand tree line.
Yes, it does.
So it's a little bit offset to the direction of the hole, and I think that's fooled me a few times, because I hit a drive that really wasn't a bad drive, but it was just aimed at the left tree line, and it pretty much went exactly where I was lined up at, I'm sure, if you looked at where my feet were pointing. But then that meant that we were in the left rough. We were blocked out by a nice big eucalypt, so our line was pretty much to the right tree line. And this was the point where we were having a conversation about what's the shot that's on offer, and I think you and I both saw very different shots at this point.
Very different. Yes.
So I might let you explain what you saw at this point.
Well, yeah, because I saw obviously the tree was directly in between where we were and where our ideal target was. I saw some, and what I would have done, and this is being a right-handed golfer and you being left-handed, what I would have done, I would have hit one of those low punch, sort of like a turnover stinger type shots that would have hooked a fair bit, would have run a long way. And yeah, that's sort of in my armory. But it would have kept it under the tree line. There was a little bit of a rise, probably
there is a mound,
60 meters in front of us.
Probably not even that. You're probably talking about more like 30 meters in front, to be honest with where we were.
Yeah. But that wasn't really in play. So we're, even with a low sort of running stinging shot, we could have
still get over it.
Could have still got over it. So that's the shot I saw. So I was sort of, as soon as I sort of got to the ball, I was thinking, okay, we need to keep this low under the branches, and being a left-hander, maybe sort of slice it, fade a little bit to get it sort of back into play. So we've at least got a shot into the green, a clear shot into the green.
It's not the shot I saw.
No, it is not.
So, because the other thing probably worth noting is the ball was probably sitting down just a little in the rough, so there's a little bit of grass behind the ball, and I think your comment was there's no chance that you're going to put any side spin on this to move it, right to left as you need to. And I looked at it and I thought, I disagree. I think at this point I can pull a 6-iron out of the bag, aim it at the right trees, and cut it, probably 20 to 30 metres back to the fairway on the start line that it needed to have.
Yeah, and I just didn't see that much spin on it. Like I don't know how you could, like I certainly wouldn't have been able to put that much spin on it.
So you're forgetting my cricketing days though, Andy Walker, where I'd be able to play the square drive starting forward of point and get it down somewhere near third man. But that was pretty much the swing. It was a big cutting swing.
And it was reasonably high too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's going to be when you're trying to hit a big open face cut like that, right?
Yeah.
Hard to keep that down. So I was thinking, go right of the tree, cut it around and try and bend it back to the fairway, which I felt comfortable with. And as soon as I stood there, I thought, no, I've got this shot. I can play this shot. Yeah. This is what I want to hit. And I think you got the sense pretty quickly that I was pretty clear in the thought process. And at that point, the caddy's job, you don't necessarily want to introduce doubt where it's not needed. And also, neither shot was a particularly easy shot to pull off. And knowing that I didn't really have that shot in the bag of punching a low one, that you're quite competent with. Having said that, though, if it was on the other side of the course and I had to hook it around like that, I probably would have done something similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah,
probably would have tried to put it back in the stance and keep it low under the branch. But in this direction, I thought, no, let's rip at this one and try and hit a big 30-metre cut.
And at this stage, because you were so adamant that you had that in the bag, I wasn't happy about it.
No,
but I'm like, you know what? I trust you. You're pretty adamant that you've got this, so happy for you to take the reins.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I knew what you were thinking because I could sense it out of every pore of your body. And at that point, I could have gone, oh, maybe I'll second guess myself and is this the right thing, and I'll get super nervous on it. But I went, no, stuff you, Andy Walker. I'm going to show you that this is actually the right decision. So maybe you're not the only one that's completely belligerent in this relationship.
Surprisingly.
Anyway, cut a long story short, I think I needed to hit about a 30-metre cut on that shot. I probably cut it about 29.5 metres, to the right edge, sort of maybe just into the right rough. But we were then, a pretty good way up the fairway with a clear shot at a left pin.
Yeah. And interestingly, we did have the conversation afterwards in the cart on the way to our third shot, where we discussed that you had that shot in the bag and you knew you had that shot in the bag and you were adamant that that you were going to hit this shot, and I said yep, and I was happy to trust you with it. I didn't want to sort of push it too far. And then I think I don't know what my exact words were, but they were something along the lines of, and I was happy to trust you with it because if it didn't come off, I would have been given the opportunity to tell you that you were wrong.
Yeah. I think you said exactly that. Quickly followed up though with a question when you said, and now how much do you trust me? As we started talking about the third shot.
Yeah.
Which was, what were we? We were about, I think we were about 125 out, slightly uphill. Which I was ready to pull a 9-iron for and put a full swing on it.
So what did you see? What did you see with that shot?
I just saw that as a straightforward 9-iron, straight to the pin. Just, it was a pretty good lie. It was sitting well. That's about my 9-iron number. I was pretty happy with that. And that's what I would have done. I pulled 9-iron and given it a crack.
Yeah. Whereas there are a couple of things that I'd noticed in that your iron play wasn't particularly sharp in the first round.
That's a nice way of putting it.
I noticed that you were coming up short. Well, you came up short on just about every iron approach shot that you hit, and some of them like quite a bit short. It wasn't like you were on the the front half of the green. There were a couple which landed short, just cause your ball striking was off. So I saw the shot. We were slightly uphill, slightly into the wind. I was looking at your yardages and sort of comparing, going through what had happened so far in the previous 15 holes. And, I you hadn't made a birdie at that stage, and I thought that this is a really good opportunity to hit it back to the flag and make a good putt so that so we at least get a birdie on the card. So that's when I said, "How much do you trust me?" And the first look on your face was like,
it depends what you're going to say.
Yeah.
If you say something I agree with, then I really trust you. If you say something I disagree with, then maybe not so much.
Yeah. So I went to the bag and I grabbed an 8-iron. And interestingly, you'd pull the exact swing that I asked you to make. You had done on the previous hole on the 6th, which you'd had a wedge shot. You just hit this nice little easy wedge, and I just said that swing that you made on the previous hole. Think that through. Think about that. Have that in your mind, and just swing like that with this 8-iron.
Which we did.
We did. And what happened?
We stuck it on the green pretty much pin high, maybe about a metre or so past the pin, and it would have been, I don't know, 12, 13 foot from the hole, something like that.
Yep. It was actually what I would class as your best swing, like an approach swing.
It was.
Of the day. You made a really, really good swing, and you did exactly what I asked you to do, which then you turned around and said, well, I actually do trust
you more now.
Yeah. Which was quite amusing.
The other thing that was kind of floating through my mind as well is that green is a very heavily sloping back to front green. So being short of the pin is obviously an easier putt than being past the pin.
Yeah.
So it didn't want to go long because on quick greens you can, and you saw it on day 2 actually with one of our playing partners that went coast to coast from the back of the green all the way off the front. So, and that's easily done because once it gets past that pin, it was a centre pin. So once it gets sort of that sort of front half, it drops away really sharply. Having said that, being down at the front, with that long uphill putt, well, you're no chance of a birdie from there. So you did need to get up past halfway to sort of be on the same level.
Yeah, and a couple of your playing partners were down around that area, and they were difficult putts. As much as they were uphill putts, they were difficult putts from down there, and it was a good 2-putt. That's all you could really do. Whereas I felt as though where we were, was a really good birdie chance.
It was a big breaking putt though, because we're kind of now coming across the break. So this is one of those interesting ones where I'd been over-reading the break all day and had learnt that lesson because you'd told me, and then sort of went, oh, well, I see this a 1.5 to 2 feet outside left.
Yeah.
And again, you disagreed, Andy Walker. Because we had to hit it at dying speed. That was the thing.
We did.
Carrying any pace past the hole, and that was turning a 1-putt into a 3-putt pretty comfortably. So we had to hit it at dying speed. And obviously you felt that 1.5 to 2 feet was probably not quite enough.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, again, that was one of the greens that I saw a bit of grain in.
Right.
As I said previously, I couldn't see a lot of grain in most of the greens, but that was one where I saw very definite grain, and I felt as though it was gonna die pretty hard to the right, especially as it lost speed, which is why sort of we sort of talked through that scenario, and I think in that scenario, if as soon as you get below the hole with those really, really big breaking putts, as soon as you get below the hole, it's gone. Like it's not getting closer, it's getting further away, and it can get away rather
very
rapidly.
Quick. Yeah.
So I saw that the break on that putt pretty clearly. As soon as I looked behind it, I saw it pretty clearly. So yeah, that was sort of that fourth putt. I was pretty adamant that no, this is the line.
And Pilgrims, it in fact was the line. And what I liked about that as well is that it demonstrated that, and we saw this a lot on day 2, which we'll get to, but it demonstrated that I do actually have the ability to putt the ball on the line that I want to putt the ball on.
Yes.
particularly now, and I really do think that the putter fitting and the new putter has made the world of difference to my ability to do that, and certainly, to improve getting the ball to the hole, because I was, my speed control was far worse, particularly coming up short consistently with the old putter. And I think what we learned through the process is I was fighting that setup the whole time because it was a face balanced rather than what is now, I think, 20 degrees toe hang on the new putter, and also obviously the weight. The other one was quite light. This is a very heavy putter. So
that was one of the things. Yeah, that was one of the things that I noticed about the putter, and there's a lot of weight in the shaft of the putter.
Yeah,
as well,
it's weird.
which I find really different. It is weird, but it's just different. I reckon it would take me quite a while to get used to where the weight, because it's quite a heavy putter, which I know that. So Lab Golf, for instance, I know that their putters are actually very heavy, but I'm just not used to that sort of weight in a putter. So again, would love to go through that process as well of having a putter fitting, which I will at some stage. But having a heavy putter, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'd probably have to spend some time to get used to it.
The thing is, though, you might not end up with that. Like, they might do the numbers and say that that's not for you. Because that was all about straightening out the stroke for me and getting better tempo so that it would take the hands out, because the extra weight will actually force you to be smoother.
Yeah.
And that was, and it's worked, I don't think there's any doubt about that. So that was good. It was nice. It was nice to put a birdie on the card. And it was a really interesting hole, because I think we disagreed about every shot.
Well, I don't know about the tee shot. I think sort of we didn't do. I didn't get sort of too much of a chance to disagree with you on the tee shot, but certainly after your tee shot, it was
classic.
It was completely different.
What do you see here? No, I don't see that. No. So anyway,
but look, it was the only hole we made a birdie, and I think it was a good result, and it worked really well, and I think that really is how the player-caddy relationship should work. It's an exchange of ideas, and when one or the other, is adamant that they see this, or that, as you did, I have this in the bag, I think that then to be able to let go of that control and to trust is a really key ingredient to that relationship.
Yeah, that's right. And as is always the case, we talk about this even when we're not in player caddy situation, but even when we're just playing normal rounds of golf, like the two of us, and the same can be said for any group of golfers, you stand behind the ball, you don't see the same thing. You don't see the same shots, you don't see the same hazards that you might miss to, because your tendencies are different. And certainly the other thing that makes it a bit interesting as well is the right-handed, left-handed difference, which you would have to then be constantly translating in your mind of, shot shapes and where the issues lie. And obviously that shot was a good example, because you're seeing that and you're going, I would have to hook this around the tree really hard to pull that off. And that's a very different dynamic to cutting it around the tree as well, because the way that the ball's going to react and all the potential misses that could come into play, that's quite different. So I can absolutely understand why, seeing the shots that you were seeing versus me seeing the shots that I'm seeing, and also our games are quite different, that there's going to be different tendencies and different things that you see. So it does make it a little bit tricky to try and figure out exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But that was day one. Whew, wow. Exhausting.
Look, I feel as though it was a good start, but I also felt that there was a bit to improve upon. And I actually felt pretty confident going into day two that we could, make some progress and we could have a really good day.
I agree. I was feeling pretty good, and I think, obviously fire up the barbecue, a bit of time in the spa to
That always
to
helps.
rest up and recuperate. Obviously you got to rehydrate as well after a tough day out on the course. So
of course, bit of lubrication.
Took care of all of those elements, and then we got out for day 2. And day 2 was a different feel. Obviously, day 1 we were fortunate to play with a couple of the Pilgrims, which was good. So shout out to Dave and Big K. It was a lot of fun getting around the course with the boys. But because they were playing in the Fairways Cup rather than the Macquarie Cup, which is for the I suppose easiest to describe the B and C grade elements. So you had to be in single digits to play Macquarie Cup. So they were both playing the Fairways Cup, which meant that day 2, because it moves to seeded groups for the Macquarie Cup, that we weren't going to be playing with those guys. And it was in the lap of the gods of who we ended up getting paired up with. So we had a couple of, we had another one of the local members, Nathan, who we played with, doesn't he hit a ball?
And again, talk about hitting a long way. Yeah, I mean,
grief.
There were a couple of drives where he just absolutely smoked it down the middle of the fairway, and you just went, "Wow, that is a long way."
A long way. I mean, far out. He's probably 6'3" or 6'4".
Yeah, and if you think about certainly in Australia an AFL footballer, spot on. He would have made a great AFL. Very tall, quite lean, fairly powerful. Some very long limbs, and could get some serious centrifugal force going.
Nice
in the golf swing.
Nice. Would you say he'd probably be a ruckman, Andy Walker, with your knowledge of AFL?
A what?
A ruckman.
A ruckman. Sorry.
Yeah, a ruckman.
A ruckman, he would have been a great ruckman. Yeah, for
full
sure.
forward. Would he have played in the forward pocket?
Well, because he would have been great in and you can just sort of see, as a team's pushing forward and sort of kicks it to the full forward and just sort of jumping on the back of the opposition player and taking a phenomenal mark. You could. I
could see it happening. Yeah, absolutely.
He's got that body shape and that physique where he would get that going pretty easily.
Now, Pilgrims. It's worth mentioning at this point that Andy and I are both from the great state of New South Wales, which was heavily tilted in favour of rugby league as our sport of choice. We just have this little conversation for the benefit of our Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth Pilgrims who will love their AFL.
Well, interestingly, and I haven't mentioned this as yet, but
fascinatingly,
I did play a season. Intriguingly, I did play a season of AFL.
What?
Yeah.
When?
Yeah. It was when it was about 1982 or 83. Might have been even been earlier. It was when South Melbourne moved to Sydney, and it was the first season of the Sydney Swans.
The Bloods.
So I played a season of AFL. I actually got to play Little League AFL on the SCG during one of the Swans games.
So on that topic, something that you may not know about me, during our time working together, the early years of our tourism career, I had a second job, and I was working for the organisation that was doing the running the match day for the Sydney Swans home games. So for a couple of years, I was there, marshalling those kids just like you that were going out for their kick around at halftime, bodyguarding Signatius the Swan as he was going around interacting with the crowd, doing the pre and post match press conferences and those sorts of things, sort of organising that gear. So there you go. We've both got some AFL credentials. You wouldn't know it.
Yes, at the SCG.
Yep.
What a great ground the SCG is. Quite enjoyed my time on there.
And I think for every AFL fan out there, you'll wholeheartedly agree that the SCG is the greatest ground in AFL and the number one sporting venue in Australia.
I am sure that there's going to be some Voice of the Pilgrims feedback that's coming this week about that.
Yeah, there is. Honestly, there is no better stadium of sport in this country, probably, or any other, than the Sydney Cricket Ground. I think hands down there'll be no contest to that.
Yep.
Leave that there. Anyway, showing. I mean, look, potentially with the exception of Victoria Park number 1 in Dubbo. It's a conversation for another day. Anyway, so great to have a round of golf with Nath. It was fun, and also Angus was the other member of what turned out to be a 3-ball on the day. Angus is the son of a local member, but plays his golf out of Sydney. Avondale, I think he said.
Yes.
And again, young guy, athletic swing, a lot more flexibility in the lower spine than what I possess at these days. But hits a long ball, but did certainly struggle off the tee for the first, probably half a dozen holes until he straightened things out. But
but look, given
played quite well.
Credit where credit's due, he did pull it together and didn't sort of chuck it. And we talked about ejecting out of the pilot seat. Well, he didn't do that, and actually sort of finished. Well, I wouldn't say reasonably well, but he finished.
He finished pretty
a lot better than what he started. Which give a bit of credit there, because could have, after his start, could have very easily just gone, no, I'm done. Yeah. But hung in there, which was great to see. Yeah,
and absolutely lovely bloke. Would happily have a round of golf with Angus again at any opportunity. So great to meet him and have a stroll around Royal Dubbo. But day 2, day 2, pretty simple, I think, summary from mine. For me, the story of day 2 and the massive positive that I take out of it was putting.
Yes.
That I think I had something like 26 putts, something ridiculous like that for the round, which then, obviously leads in, because the reality was that I scored an 84 on day 2, which was one shot worse than day 1, albeit my putting was substantially better. I actually felt like for a lot of the day my ball striking was actually a little bit better on day 2 than it was on day 1. But some of the results maybe weren't. So I still felt like I was hitting driver well, but I was missing a few here and there, and 2 that I missed were hard up against trees. And were chip out backwards kind of situation. So that was disappointing. The big area of concern was short game. That reared its head on a number of occasions, and that just, quite frankly, at the moment is not good enough.
And that was another thing that I know we spoke about that after day 1, because I picked up a few things in day 1, and we sort of jumped out into the backyard at your place in Dubbo, and gave you a little bit of a sort of putting lesson, but using the Tour Tempo app. And as we've discussed previously, certainly when it comes to short game tempo, the Tour Tempo app has been brilliant for certainly the crispness of the strike and just getting that, and you'll see it sort of it's when really good proponents of the short game, they'll just nip it, and it's almost got that that little sort of flies low and with the spin, sort of then flies up and one bounce and jag and stops next to the flag. The Tour Tempo app for me, because I realized that I was decelerating on not by a lot, but just enough that it was certainly impacting the consistency of the
and
ball
that's
strike.
100% my issue.
And that I picked that up in round 1. So we went out the back into the backyard, and I put the Tour Tempo app on, the short game setting, and just got you to hit a couple of little pitch shots, and took you 3 or 4 shots to get used to it. But then you started hitting these little crisp little pitch shots of 20 or 30 yards, and I just went, that's it. That's what you need to be doing with your short game. So I certainly think that would be a significantly positive.
And that's the big takeout, to be honest, from the weekend is to sort that out, because I just want to run through some strokes gained data for you from day 2. So My strokes gain, this is against a scratch handicapper, of course, which is the benchmark that we now always go from. Strokes gained off the tee was minus 1.85, which I thought was a bit harsh. But I can understand that because there were two shots that when I missed a fairway, I was hard up behind a tree. So they both cost a full shot, so I guess that's fair. Other than that, though, that sort of comes in at a roundabout scratch, aside from those two situations. Getting to approaches was minus 5.3.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that.
It's probably fair. There was a couple that missed. Short game was minus 5.5.
Ooh. Yep.
And look, when you look at it, on 16, there was 2 chunk chips.
Yep.
And that.
In fact, there was a double.
There was
double hit.
There was. No, there wasn't. It wasn't double hit because I didn't even hit the ball to start with. I only hit the earth, which lifted like a bunker shot from the fringe of the green.
Yeah.
And then I hit the ball on the backswing and it went straight up in the air and straight back down. It was so bad.
Excellent.
So bad. Anyway, so that was minus 5.56. Putting, Andy Walker. Where do you reckon putting finished?
See, I reckon you would have. You'd have to be in positive with putting. I mean, you putted really well on day 2.
Plus 4.1.
Wow. I was going to say plus 2 or 2.5. I wouldn't have thought 4, but plus 4. That's a great effort. Yeah.
That kept me in the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the number of saves and, whether they were par saves or even a couple of double bogey saves, pretty amazing. And on that one, on 16 was a case in point. But look, all in all, it was a good 15 holes, and then I finished double bogey. Yep. And that killed it. That hurt.
Yeah.
And
I
that
felt,
took some getting over.
Yeah, I felt on 15 when you hold the par putt at 15.
Yeah. I
thought that we were in the game to break 80.
We were.
Thought, we've got a par 5, which I had a fair idea the pin was going to be in that sort of back left.
It's nasty. It's a horrible spot.
Yeah, it is that little level there that you've got nothing to work with.
Yeah.
So I knew it wasn't going to be an easy birdie, but I still thought that maybe we could. And then 17 and 18 are 2 fairly tough finishing holes, but I felt as though that you were playing well enough to be for us to be able to squeeze out a couple of the pars out of it.
We'd made par on 17 the day before. Yeah. Doubled 18 though from that horrible tee shot.
Yep.
But unfortunately, and look, obviously 16 was an own goal from just horrible short game. 7,
you hit 2 great shots. Like
I know. I smoked a drive, and fairway wood 5, just short.
Yeah, fairway was like you smoked those 2,
and then flubbed a sand wedge, and then I don't know. I think I rotated the earth a couple of meters on that, little attempted bump and run, but that was an own goal, right? Like that was bad. But then sunk a 6-footer for double that it could have been a triple. So, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I felt though on 17, like I pushed the drive a little bit left towards, the edge of the left tree line. It wasn't horrible and it wasn't cutting in. It was just blocked straight. Look, we've hit the tree, obviously, and gone hard left about 30 metres into the tree line, like almost through the tree line out onto the 10th fairway. And that, that then was a straight sideways punch out.
Yeah. And I didn't mention it at the time, but there was a low running punch shot.
Oh, but it was so high risk. I saw it as well, but I just went, 2 things. A, it was high risk. B, it's not a shot I've practiced. And even though we talked about it the day before, it was not the time to pull it out.
Yeah. See, and that's where I struggled a bit with the just letting go, because that would have been my shot. Because I've got that shot in the bag, and that would have sort of got us down to around where sort of Nathan and Angus were, which would have been a much easier third shot into the green. But I had to just let go and go, yep, that's your shot.
And it would have been one of those things you could have, and I knew you were thinking about it because I saw it as well. And it was also going to be one of those things like, I don't care how much you talk about this, I don't have that shot today.
Yep.
So it's a moot point.
Yes.
But unfortunately, what it meant was that playing 3, we were 200 metres out.
Yes.
And, that's always tough to make it down in 3 from there, let alone 2. So we made it down in 4 and it was a double. 18 then, finishing hole, was interesting because, again, hit that squirty, horrible hybrid. The hybrid and I are having conversations at the moment about its future. So stay tuned on that front. But that was bad because the pin, so the green slopes hard left to right, and the pin was up on the left on the high side, hidden by 2 greenside bunkers. I was left of those bunkers, so chipping over the bunkers, down the hill and far away, which
you
out
had
of the
no
rough,
chance of getting it close.
deep in the rough as well. So in my mind, I was thinking one very, very simple thought, particularly after chunking 2 wedges 2 holes ago, and that thought was, the only terrible shot you can play here is to leave it short and have to play another downhill chip, particularly out of the sand. So get it on the green, or at least land it on the green and let it roll out. And even if it rolls through, it's not the end of the world. And that's exactly what we did. So I think I pitched it about 10 metres past the hole, which is fine, and it just rolled through. And then putted from the, just or maybe a metre or 2 off the green onto the green. I think what were we left with, about maybe a 10-footer for bogey or something like that. Bit of a knee knocker to close out the round, but fortunately made the putt and finished with bogey. So it could have been double to finish, but it was double.
And that would have been, it was disappointing to finish, double bogey, but to finish double, that would have just,
I think been unfair.
Left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, because I feel as though you played better than 84.
So do I.
And I think that's the positive to take out of day 2, is that, we're in the game for a very long time, and just about for the whole round prior to the 16th hole, breaking 80 was in the game. We were well and truly in the game for breaking 80, and I was pretty confident that we were going to do that. Yeah.
And I felt it would have been a great outcome for the weekend to have been able to do that.
So I feel as though there's a lot to work with, and especially given that you haven't played a lot this year. Neither of us have really played a lot this year. So given, where we are from a practice perspective or lack of practice perspective, I feel as though where your game is, it's almost there. Like it's not, I don't think you've got to do a lot of work to be able to, just take it to that next level. There are some things you need to work on, as we all do, and I think we've identified some of those things, but it's not a lot. It's not that much at all.
No, I feel like, and it was funny because we reflected on this after the round. So I went 83, 84 for a 167 total for the tournament over 2 days. And compared to last year, which was 85, 81 for a 166 total. So it's one shot worse.
Yeah. You played better than last year, though.
I know. And that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like the golf I'm playing now versus what I was playing then is so much better.
Yep.
But the scores just aren't yet reflecting that completely.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's that, it's not really a glass ceiling and a glass floor of just getting to that next lower level.
Yeah, so it feels close. But I think, all things considered, the things that I take out of the weekend was really, I guess, no surprises. Like I know, and we've talked about this for some episodes now, I know the areas that I need to improve is getting, finding the centre of the club face with my irons for approaches more regularly.
Yep.
And improving short game because that's, that's a bit yippy at the moment. But I think the real positives that came out of the weekend, from my point of view, was the driver swing in tournament conditions under pressure held up. That's really good. I suppose reinforcement of what I've been feeling with the improvement in that area. And the other one's putting. Like, the improvement in putting is that's remarkable. I can't tell you how happy I am about that. That's the thing that turned a high 80s score into a low 80s score on, certainly on day 2.
Yep.
So there's some really good positives, and there's a bit of a path forward. Like, I absolutely will be focusing on the Tour Tempo app for short game, and spending some time on that. And hopefully
those low running shots as well, and I showed you a couple of those in the High Performance Centre after day 1. We went out there and just hit a couple of. Well, I showed you the technique, and you actually those couple of shots that you hit towards the end were really good, and I think if you and there's something that you can just work on. In the High Performance Centre, you don't actually need to get on the golf course to practice those. You can just get in there and practice the technique, and then when you're playing a practice round, you can just throw a couple into the trees and see how you go with it. And I think you'll be surprised that they're not that hard to play, but they're such a beneficial shot because it just opens up, getting the ball further down the fairway to within, either around the green or certainly a lot closer to the green than just pitching out sideways. And on a country golf course, you need that shot.
So you'll be happy to know, Andy Walker, that a couple of days after the Macquarie Cup, because I had the week off work to hang out with the kids during the school holidays, I took young Mr. Hinks out in the golf cart for 9 holes just to try and get him hitting some balls around the course.
Nice.
Which was awesome. He actually was doing really well. So that was a really cool dad-son moment. But there was one hole that we played which is actually on the 3rd 9 that you haven't played, but I hit a good drive, slight dogleg to the right. I hit a good drive, but up the right side, and I was slightly blocked out to the green by an overhanging, a couple of overhanging branches. Now, ordinarily, I was about an 8-iron distance, and ordinarily I probably would have, tried to hit a high draw, come around those trees towards the green. But I went, this is an opportunity to try one of Andy Walker's low shots. So I took the 7-iron and put it back in the stance. Did everything that we talked about, and I hit it under the branches, a nice little tight draw to the front of the green. And I went,
nice.
Well, that's cool.
And it's a cool little shot to have in your bag.
It went probably 15 metres off the ground the whole way, if that.
See, that's also a shot that you need in a high wind as well, and that's where I learnt to play it at New South Wales when in my time in New South. But then it just comes into its own in another situation, being when you're playing a tree line golf course. So it's definitely a very good shot to have in your bag to pull out strategically to just put yourself in a better position.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, mindful of time, Andy Walker, but there's a couple of topics that we do need to cover as well. So I think that's a pretty good wrap of the Macquarie Cup. So firstly, thank you for caddying. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the experience, learned a lot.
And I certainly, and I alluded to this at the start, one of the things that I feel as though I got out of the 36 holes was my green reading ability. Now, I've never really put that much significance on. In fact, I've always thought that, it's probably an area that I need to work on and I need to improve. And, we talked about this afterwards, in that, when I've picked the line, your putting stroke is so good that you're able to hit it on the line, and obviously got some great results from it. So that says to me, it's not my green reading, it's actually my putting stroke that's not working. So I've, even though I didn't play, I've actually taken a lot out, similar to, the strokes gain data,
Yeah.
but just digging into that detail a little bit more in that, yeah, maybe I've got a bit of a hidden talent there of reading greens really well, and I just need to work on the putting stroke. And once I get the ball on the line that I read, then, I'm going to have 20 putts every round.
I love that you're viewing it so positively and that you've gone with that angle, because the other thing that it shows is that you clearly have been unable to hit the ball on the line.
Yes.
And it also shows to me how bad my green reading's been to this point, because when I actually get the right line, I can hit it on that line.
I think we're sort of two halves to a circle. Like it's
we need to be a scramble team. I think that's the answer.
We do. So,
I'll hit the tee shots, you hit the irons and the short game, and then you read the greens and I'll putt. Yeah. And at that point, we're a scratch golfer.
The thing we're going to struggle with is if ever you caddy for me and you've got to read the greens and I've got to putt. Yeah. We're just going to be no hope.
We're screwed. Yeah. So anyway, it was a fun weekend, but it wasn't the only thing that was happening on that weekend, because that was also the playing of the Missing Links Masters for the green jacket.
Yes, it was.
Andy Walker. Smallest field in the history of the Masters. So, but let's not focus on the asterisk. No. Let's focus on the golf that was played, and two really solid rounds of golf to see the 2025 Missing Links Masters champion and the green jacket going to the big man himself, Kerrod Purcell. Great work, Kay.
And he played well. Like a couple of great rounds of golf, and consecutively too. Like it's one thing to go out and have one good round of golf, but to put two in a row together, worthy champion.
Absolutely.
Even though he really could only get one arm in the jacket.
That was fantastic. Pilgrims, the jacket is, I think it's best described as one size fits nobody. It's an obscure size jacket. It has very small and short sleeves and a bit of a generous waistline to it. But let's just say Big K's frame was not getting anywhere near fitting into that jacket. But it was fun to watch him try.
Yeah, look, I sort of feel after, round one that he had one arm in the jacket, and
that's all he could ever get in there.
He still had one arm in the jacket.
Yeah, no, he did well. So well done, Kay. And we'll definitely be putting some of those photos up on the Facebook page. So jump on board. Andy Walker, there's a couple of other things I do want to ask you about. Firstly, and very quickly, is the injury update.
Injury update. So
where are we at?
I had scans during the week. Haven't got the results of the scans yet. My doctor's back on the 29th of April. So we're actually quite late in recording. So it's the 27th on the day of recording, and we're releasing this, I believe, tomorrow. So I get the results from my doctor on the 29th, which is Tuesday. So hopefully the lady who did so I had both an ultrasound and an x-ray. The lady who did the ultrasound said that she couldn't see anything in the ultrasound, and actually went out of the room to refer to a doctor to have a conversation, to come back to see if there's anything different that she could potentially do to see anything unusual or abnormal. So that says to me, it's not sort of ligament, it's not sort of soft tissue damage. The X-ray, I don't know. I mean, I've got the X-rays in the imaging portal that I've got access to, but the report I don't have access to yet until the doctor sends it to me. So I'm not sure what the results of the X-ray were, but certainly it feels much better. And I did go out into the high performance center yesterday and made a couple of swings and hit probably 3 or 4 shots into the net, and it still, I could still feel it, But there's certainly, I wouldn't describe it as pain. It wasn't pain. It wasn't really even uncomfortable, but I felt as though if I pushed it too much, I probably would have risked re-injuring the wrist. But the good thing is that I can swing without pain, even though I can sort of still feel that it's not 100%. So it's certainly in a better spot than what it was a few weeks back when I played those 5 holes in the local comp. But yeah, I'm not quite there yet, and certainly from a return to golf, return to practice, return to tournament play, I think I'm a few weeks off at least, being able to practice solidly again, and that means it's probably looking to the end of the end of May, and I've got my eye on the Camden Seniors, which I played in and did well in last year. That's on the 26th of May. I'm not sure about that. I would have loved to play in it. We did talk about this playing in the Duntry League Seniors this week. That's this Thursday and Friday, and that's a definite no. But I'm hoping, and I again see how we go, but I'm hoping maybe the Camden Seniors. But yeah, I certainly think that's a 50-50 proposition at best at this point in time.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, the saga continues, I suppose.
It does. It does.
And I've got one other question for you, which is about the tournament calendar, and it's about a tournament that I've been considering, and I'm just not sure what the best option is. I'm interested in your views, which is the New South Wales Mid-Amateur in Tamworth in the first week of June. I've had a bit of a look at the entries, and it looks probably likely that I would qualify if I put an entry in.
Yep.
My question, though, is it worth it with where I'm at, given that it would mean a couple of days of leave from work and obviously accommodation costs up in Tamworth? Don't have to answer now. It's one for consideration.
Oh, look, I'm happy to answer now, and if I was in your position, absolutely, 100%. There's not many opportunities throughout the year that you're going to get to play in a New South Wales sanctioned championship event. And I think if you've got the opportunity to do it, give it a crack. I mean, I did think about, given I'm not playing didn't play in the Macquarie Cup, and not playing in the Duntry League Seniors, I have thought about it. But again, I'm not sure when the entries close, but yeah, I think me putting in an entry form would probably just be a bit too much of a risk, and I don't want to at this point in time. But yeah, I did give it some serious thought during the week when my wrist started to feel better, and I started to go, you know what, maybe I might be okay. But if I had the opportunity, if it was me, yeah, I'd be giving it a crack for sure.
Okay. Stay tuned, Pilgrims. Decisions will be made in coming days.
Okay.
It's attractive for all of those reasons. It's a 3-day event as well, which 3 days of stroke play on unfamiliar courses.
Yep.
Easy. Championship setups. Yeah.
Yep. It will be great experience for you.
Oh, I kind of feel like that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you think about the great experience that we both had at the New South Wales Country Championships last year, it will be like that 100%. It will be like that, because you can't replicate a state championship, a state sanctioned championship. That's a mouthful. In any other event, and even the Macquarie Cup, even something like the Duntry League Seniors, they're not New South Wales.
Oh, it's different. It's a totally different level.
It's very, very different. So it's just on another level, and the more experience that you get at that level, regardless on where you're at, even if your game might not be where you want it to be, the fact is you've gone and played in it, you've experienced it, you're going to get a bit more of a feel of what those events are about. So yeah, if you can get the time off, if it's something that you can do and still allow you to play in some of the events we're talking about later on in the year, then yeah, I'd be all over it.
Stay tuned, Pilgrims. You give me a lot to think about there, Andy Walker.
Yep.
A lot to think about. Well, it is at an hour and 20, bit of a marathon, but it's been a good discussion. There's a lot to get through. A lot to get through. And yeah, Pilgrims, it's certainly was a big weekend. It was a lot of fun. And we look forward to more tournaments, hopefully, on the horizon. But Andy Walker, anything that we've missed? Anything else that you want to cover off before we wrap up this episode?
I think there's only one thing left to do.
Which is?
Rock out, Pilgrims.
Thanks for listening to us today. We love hearing from our Pilgrims, so please reach out to us through any of the links in the show notes. We know golf is hard, so we hope we can help you shoot better scores and inspire you to keep trying. Rock on, Pilgrims.